Okay, so today we will be discussing chapters 1 to 9 of The Kite Runner. Tim Pack, Brandon Wong, Brian Howe, and Hugo Mack are here. The book starts with the protagonist Amir in December 2001. He's in the United States where he's living at the time, but he's having flashbacks to his childhood, to when he was 12 in the winter of 1975 when he lived in Kabul, Afghanistan. Him and his dad had two servants. One was about his father's age and one was about his age. The servant who was his age was named Hassan. And him and Hassan, they were very good friends. They treated each other well. But Amir never considered Hassan to be a friend. He played with him, but he only played with him when no one else was around. And Hassan was a Hazara, which are Shia Muslims, while Amir was a Sunni Muslim. Then his father, he did not have a very good relationship with his father. His father only cared about his achievements and his masculinity. He didn't care about what he was actually interested in. Because Amir is a very good writer, he's very literate, and he likes to write. And one day his father's friend, Rahim Khan, says that he will be a great and famous writer after reading his first short story, which his father refused to read. A little later, Amir and Hassan have their first encounter with a group of bullies. The main bully is named Asef, and then he also has his two sidekicks, Wali and Kamal, who really just follow him. And that is an encounter on a street, but Amir and Hassan manage to get out of that with no harm done. But Asef promises that he will remember this time. And sometime that winter, as per usual, as per he does every year, Amir enters a kite fighting tournament.
So the kite fighting tournament is the highlight of the winter for the people in school and all the parents to watch. So the people in the community will gather and they will all get their kites ready. They have special types of strings that have normally glass glued onto it to slice other people's kites. So they'll fly them around and try to maneuver it in such a way so that the strings will cut other kites. And the kites that fall down, people chase them and they're called kite runners. And Hassan is a very good kite runner and he knows and predicts where the kites will land. So in this tournament, his dad thinks that he has a chance of winning this tournament, but Amir has doubts about why his dad thinks he's going to win, if it's like a plot to embarrass him. So in this tournament, Amir ends up fighting the last guy and slicing his kite, and Hassan runs around, celebrates first, and then runs to go grab the kite.
So Hassan manages to get the kite, but then on his way back to the house, he gets the bullies, Asef and Wahi and Kamal, meet him in an alley, and they end up raping him. And Amir has been following Hassan, and he sees this happen, and he is there before it happens, but he decides not to do anything. He just hides behind a wall and he watches. And then, because of that, Amir pretends that that he hasn't seen what has happened. And even when he talks with Hassan later, he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to reconcile. He just pretends that he never saw it. But really deep down, he has a lot of guilt, and that guilt is going to affect the rest of his life. So a little while later, his dad hosts a big party for Amir's birthday party. His dad really likes to throw big and extravagant parties, and Asef was there, who Amir's dad likes because he's very masculine and because he plays soccer and does what boys are supposed to do. And Asef is there, and he is seen kneeing Hassan in the chest and being mean to him. But Amir continues to do nothing. And then a few chapters later, Hassan and his father Ali, the two servants who have been there their entire lives, they decide that they have to leave because of an ongoing struggle between Hassan and Amir. Amir doesn't want to talk to Hassan. He says he gets headaches talking to him. So they refuse to talk to each other, and that forces a lot of tension in the house and in that area, which eventually leads to Hassan and his dad leaving. Okay. And then Tim Pack will have some vocab from the section.
So I think right when we're starting this study, it's important to know the basics and just what kind of setting we're in right now, and just kind of the ethnicities and the environment that the characters are facing. So the first vocab word that I'd like to bring up is Pashtun, and Pashtun is basically Amir and Amir's father's ethnic group, and they're one of the largest ethnic groups in Afghanistan, and they, back before the times of Amir, the Pashtuns basically pushed out the Hazara, and they discriminated and persecuted them, and pushed them out of the area that they were living in. Which brings me to my second vocab word, Hazara. They're Shia Muslims, and they're also another ethnic group in Afghanistan. They're also a large ethnic group, but in comparison to the Pashtuns, they're weaker. And basically, these two vocab words kind of, they represent some of our main characters, Amir and also Hassan. And it kind of shows just the relationship and kind of the tension in the culture. And we kind of see in the story that Hassan is discriminated against constantly by people like Asef, and just also his father Ali is persecuted against and made fun of on the streets. And just overall, that kind of racial tension or the cultural tension is really high there between these two cultures. And the third vocab word that I'd like to bring up is mashallah. And it's also Arabic, and it's said upon good news, or it's kind of like when there's good news and you just want to kind of show that you're happy or joyful, you say mashallah. And this is significant because it's used when Rahim Khan he gives a letter to Amir, and he's kind of just telling him that Amir is a very good writer, and that he says mashallah, and he says that he has a lot of gifts. And this kind of puts Amir on the path of just going for and trying to achieve his dreams, because his father is just very disapproving of his gifts and wants him to become masculine. But when Rahim Khan says this to him through this letter, he feels much more validated about his own gifts, and it kind of shifts him towards the path of becoming a writer. And the fourth vocab word that I like to bring up is Aga, and A-G-H-A, and it means sir, or it's an honorable title for someone. And this is really interesting because it's used by both Amir and Hassan to speak to kind of their elders, or the people that, like, for example, Amir's father's friends. Amir refers to them as Aga, so they say their name and then Aga, or they should just say Aga. But a really interesting use of this word is when Hassan says this to Asef, when Asef is bullying them, and he calls Asef Aga, which really shows kind of the difference in the level of culture and kind of the system of social leveling, because even when they're kind of like the same age, they're just kids, but Hassan, because he's a servant and also because of his cultural background, he's a Hazara, so he has to refer to someone who's just bullying them as Aga, like a sir or honorable title. And I think that really shows the difference in the cultural setting there. And also the last vocab word is Jan. I don't know if it's Jan or Yan or something like that, but it's in accordance to names, so you would refer to Amir Yan or Amir Jan, and it means my dear. So this is a really big part of the story, and Amir struggles with this word because his father does not refer to him as Yan. He doesn't show that kind of affection to Amir, so Amir feels like his father doesn't love him or doesn't feel affection towards him because his father doesn't use this word to him. But when he talks about other people, such as when Asef goes to their house to celebrate Amir's birthday, Amir's father calls him Yan, but he doesn't say that to Amir a lot, and it just it shows that kind of inner struggle that Amir has to try and validate himself and try and show his father that he is something and he wants to prove something, and that kind of just this simple word not being used to communicate with Amir is really significant, and I think it really shows kind of the tension between Amir and his father.
Okay, so now I have a few questions. My first question is from chapters 1 to 6, the beginning part. Why does Amir consider Hassan to be only a servant and not a true friend, despite the fact that he treats him almost better than a friend? And why does he treat him as he does?
Well, first of all, probably the main difference is Hassan is a Hazara and Amir is a Pashtun. So there's already a cultural difference there, social difference. And the only reason that they're friends is because, first of all, he's his servant, so he's always spending time with him. And second of all, Amir only spends time with Hassan when he has no other friends around. So just to give him company because no one else wants to spend time with him.
And as well, in the book it also states that their fathers were raised by the same father. So Amir's grandfather had raised both his father, which Amir refers to as Baba, and Ali, which is Hassan's father. So then those two fathers share a close bond, and then the book also references that these two generations share a similar relationship.
If they are so close and grown up together, why does Amir consistently, in a way, mock Hassan, especially mock the way that he's illiterate? And why does he enjoy that?
I think it's just the culture that is around him. I think like as we read through the book, it's very obvious that like the relationship he has with Hassan is actually quite irregular. It's not common. Most people are more prone to just treat them as servants and not even treat them maybe as in the way that Amir's father does to Ali, like treat them more as family in that same sense. So I think it's, again, cultural and society, cultural beliefs and society's values that is kind of pressuring on Amir, since we don't really see too much of his school or his other friends. We just see his interaction with Hassan.
Yeah, for a servant, I think Amir treats Hassan a lot better than most people in that area would. I think most people would just treat him as a servant, but Amir actually treats him as a friend. My second question, what evidence shows that Amir's Baba only cares about a person's achievements and masculinity? Why do you think Baba is like this, and what effect does this have on Amir?
I think just an example of that would be after the kind of like the kite fight. After the kite fight, Amir's Baba throws him like a huge party, and Amir notices this and he says something, especially after the rape sequence. He's kind of pessimistic about things, and he kind of notices that his own father only really kind of shows him affection and kind of like big parties and love just after he does something that his father likes. So if let's say he was good at football, then his father would be happy. Or after he wins the kite fight, it shows that he's a man, and his father shows him this kind of affection. And I think it really damages his kind of relationship between him and his father from kind of like a loving relationship to a cause and effect kind of relationship. So like you do this, you get that kind of thing.
And as well, I think, somewhere in the early chapters, you can find that when his father has a discussion with his business partner, what was his name again?
Rahim Khan.
Rahim Khan, yeah. When they have a discussion, and unfortunately, Amir overhears it, but what the readers are told is that Baba wants Amir to be like how he was as a child. He wants him to be good at sports. He wants him to be pretty much do everything that's considered masculine in the Middle East. So he wants to see Amir develop as a man, just like how he did. He wants him to take over the business. He wants to basically just remodel his life. So that's kind of like, in a way, imposing his views onto Amir, which also affects his like mental state and his social relationships as well.
Yeah, Amir's Baba or father, he likes Asaf, even though he's a bully, but he doesn't know that. But one of the reasons I think is because he shows to be masculine, he's a good soccer player. He's tall. He's good in stature, and I think that's more evidence that he is more concerned about or really interested in masculinity and someone's achievements more than even his son Amir.
Yeah, they're more interested in like achievements than personality or characteristics.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Because Baba is a businessman, in the past, people had doubts about him, like who he would marry if he was able to run a business, and how he would get this orphanage to be built. He proved them all wrong, and because he's a businessman, he's more of a person who tries to overcome different difficulties and is results orientated. So he finished building his orphanage, and he has a good businessman. He married well, and this is like kind of the opposite of who Amir is. He's just like enjoys doing things because
Dreaming.
yeah.
Right.
Okay. On to my next question. Were you surprised by Amir's decision not to do anything when Hassan was being raped? Was this predictable by his character?
He seems a bit cowardly.
Yeah.
He seems a bit cowardly by his actions so far. Over and over again, videos are shown that he lacks the traits of like traditional masculinity. Even his father himself says that.
Yeah.
So it's probably just an act of cowardly. He
It's
doesn't want trouble on
respect.
himself because Asef is a person that he fears.
Yeah. Would you say that he acted cowardly before that, before the rape?
I think we can look at maybe the scene where Baba, his father, is talking to Rahim Khan.
Yeah.
He's saying like he's always hiding behind Hassan. He's not really standing up for himself. He's letting Hassan stand up for him. And I think that is a sign of like he doesn't have the courage to really stand up for himself. Or then standing up for himself it would be harder to stand up for someone else rather than just self-protection.
Well, because Hassan is his servant, he kind of takes for granted that, oh, if I don't do anything here, I'll be fine, but Hassan might have to suffer, but he's just taking another one of my blames on himself, but this will be the last time, and I won't let him do this again. But again and again, he keeps putting Hassan into trouble, like when he hid his money underneath his mattress, or during the rape, or when they were encountering the bullies for the first time.
Or even at the beginning of the book when they're
Yeah.
just like messing around and
Yeah.
shooting things at dogs and animals.
Hassan was the one who got in trouble, but he would never tell.
He would
He
never,
would never say Amir.
He never
was the
even
one who
wanted to
started
do it. Amir wanted to do it, and he'd make Hassan do it, and then Hassan would get in trouble. But because of Hassan's character,
He took all the
he would took
responsibility.
all that on himself, and he put nothing on Amir.
Unlucky.
Yes.
Scapegoat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add on to that, later on when Baba holds a birthday party for Amir, he doesn't even mention anything about the rape or any part of the bullying. All he does is, when Baba talks to Amir about how he should be friends with Asef because he has those traits of masculinity that Baba values. Amir doesn't even say anything. He just mutters, he just agrees, and he doesn't really put any of his views forward.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by how strongly Amir reacted after his decision? How he didn't want to talk to him and got a headache and all that? And why was Amir unwilling to reconcile even when Hassan was?
The victim.
Yeah. Because Hassan, we find out that, or Amir becomes pretty certain that Hassan does know that Amir has seen what happened, but he's still neither of them. And Hassan he wants to do things with Amir. He says, let's go play, let's go read, let's go watch a movie, go on a hike. But Amir just refuses. He says no, go away. He becomes really rude.
Throws pomegranates at him.
I think. Okay, thanks. I think it's part of his refusal to really acknowledge that he was there and saw Hassan get raped and didn't do anything about it. I think because interacting with Hassan, still remaining his friend, means he's going to eventually have to talk to him about essentially being cowardly and not trying to help him while he was being raped. And I think Amir's just has this guilt and he doesn't want to deal with it, so he's just avoiding it, and thus he's avoiding Hassan.
I think it's one of those instances where someone reminds you of a situation that you don't want to remember. I feel that while, Amir just saw this happen, but he regrets his decision to not do anything about it.
Well, I think it's almost worse for Amir because for Hassan,
Mental, well,
Yeah.
it's about the same.
after the event itself, Hassan can kind of get over it once he just realizes that he took the blame for what Amir really wanted, which was the kite. He sacrificed himself for the kite. But for Amir, he has all the responsibility. He could have intervened, and I think he feels that all the guilt is upon him. So he doesn't want to talk about it and just wants to keep pushing it until eventually they leave, and he does not reconcile with Hassan.
Yes. In a way, Hassan, he feels, or I think he feels almost like he can feel almost proud that he got the kite because that's what he was focused on. He wanted to get that kite, and even when the bullies said, let go of the kite and we'll let you go, he said no, he needs to keep that kite because he needs to bring that back to Amir. So I think in that he can be almost, obviously it's going to hurt a lot, but he's almost proud by how dedicated he was. How dedicated he was.
It's hard to hold back your thoughts on this one, really.
Yeah.
And as well, because this was done to help Amir win. This is all done for Amir. He feels responsibility for the rape.
Yeah.
It's all because of his victory, and he did win. So
Yeah.
it just rubs on. It's just an additional something.
Amir, there's just too much self-guilt. Even earlier, his mom had died in childbirth, and he says that his mom had died at childbirth, and he says that he needs to be good. His father wants him to be good because he killed his father's wife. So he already has a sense of guilt within him, or at least he's thinking of guilt. And then after this event, he becomes very guilty that he did nothing. And his way of dealing with guilt is to just ignore it. And obviously, as we found out in chapter 1, that guilt is going to stay with him at least for the next 25 years.
Giant guilt trip. I don't know. The actions are pretty deserving, though.
Okay, on to my last question. Why is Hassan so devoted to Amir? What do you consider his actions to be honorable?
Ooh.
I think from a personal sense, it is honorable, at least to him. It is because even you can see from the beginning of the story, the first word that comes out of his mouth is Amir, right?
Yeah.
And from that point
It's
on,
really good symbolism,
he's
actually.
just so devoted to him, right? And you can kind of see just that kind of undivided, almost nothing else is more important to him than his relationship with Amir. And I think it's honorable that he would do that for his friend, even when you can either say it's honorable or it's just kind of blind, just going in
it's
for it.
It's almost like it's like honorable, but taking it to the next level where you're really just
over loyal.
Blindly.
Too much honor.
Blind loyalty.
It's good that he's
Blind
honorable, but he
loyalty.
takes it way too far.
Yeah.
And an example of that is Amir's the one that saw Hassan get raped. Hassan's the one that got raped, but Amir feels more guilt. And there's a scene in the book where Amir's guilt leads him to bring Hassan up to a hill, and on that hill is a pomegranate tree.
Yeah.
And what happens is that Amir basically throws pomegranates at Hassan and tells him to hit him back. And I think this is a pretty good way of showing that he wants Hassan to be mad at him, but Hassan's not mad at him. And then at the end of that event, Amir just ends up leaving the hill himself, frustrated. So I think deep down he wants Hassan to do something with it, but Hassan's personality and, once again, blind loyalty, he really treats him as a friend. He treats him above himself. So that's why Hassan doesn't do anything about it very much.
I don't think it's just he's blind to it, because I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing.
But it's more just he's going above what normal people would do. So then to most people it'd be why would you even do that? It's kind of pointless. It's just a kite. But
Well, Amir says, even from childbirth, Hassan was incapable of causing harm. And we can see that throughout the first 9 chapters, for sure.
Sad, tragic.
Yes.
Connector point?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's worse things to come.
Okay, moving on to our connector points.
So my first point that I noticed from this first section of the book was the subtle amount of American influence that was present, especially in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
Afghani culture. So first of all, Amir and Hassan, they were talking about how they enjoyed watching movies, specifically Western movies or Westerns, and it's similar to how we enjoy watching like American blockbusters, just the same way. And they're
What are Canadian movies? What are Canadian movies?
they're American movies filmed in Canada.
Deadpool.
American movies.
And was it just Amir and his father drinking warm Coca-Cola, or was it with Hassan?
I'm not quite sure.
I think it was with Hassan.
They buy warm
It was
Coca-Cola.
Hassan. Warm Coca-Cola and rose water flavored ice cream.
Yeah,
It's another
That's
example
weird.
of American influence or American products in Afghanistan. And his dad, Baba, has a Ford Mustang, which he drives him to school in, and that's also prevalent in one of the movies they watched. So this is like a good example of how the United States is an influential country, both in Canada and in Afghanistan. There's lots of American culture, like from food to advertising, entertainment, or lifestyle and material goods. American content is always present. It's relative to us here, especially.
It's also pretty funny how when they were watching these westerns, they told Baba that they wanted to go to Iran to visit these characters or like these movie stars.
Where they lived.
Yeah, and then Baba had a fun time telling them about how these people weren't from Iran; they were from America.
Voice dubbing.
Voice dubbing is a thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, subs over dubs. Subs over
Yes,
dubs.
all the way.
My second connection was how it's more of a personal connection, or like not as on a big scale. How Amir was first, he was telling Hassan that imbecile, because Hassan is illiterate and he didn't understand what this word meant, but he was saying, the word imbecile is a compliment, saying something about Hassan is an imbecile, he's really good, blah blah blah. And also Amir was reading a story to Hassan, but it was actually a story he made up, and Hassan actually said he enjoyed it the most out of all the stories he's ever told him. So this was reminding me of how easy it could be to like deceive people when they're asking you for information, or say like deceiving a little kid, just making something up and they blindly believe you because they don't know any better. Like an example would be someone would be asking, wait, there's a quiz today, and you'd be like, oh yeah, of course, didn't you remember? And then they'd believe you, but then you'll be like, oh, it's just a joke.
Evil.
Yeah. It just reminded me of how
Start studying right
how
now.
people who ask you for the truth will be looking up to you, and they don't know any better, so it makes them really gullible to what you say.
So watch your lies.
Good, yeah. Another point that Amir was an example of was how he always thinks of trying to meet his father's expectations of him. First time he hears what his father was saying to Rahim Khan was saying that, Rahim was explaining how children aren't coloring books. They can't just be what you want them to be. They will be similar to your parents, but they won't be like exact copies of them. And his father also said there's something missing in that boy. So he was like kind of saying how he wasn't acting how Baba wants him to be, how there's something missing like in his fight or in his masculinity. And during the kite fighting tournament, even though his father was cheering him on, he kept thinking of other motives for why, like was he trying to set him up or was he actually just cheering for others? And he kept looking back at his father, and he forced himself not to, or else he'd get distracted and wouldn't be able to focus on the kite fighting tournament. So this was pretty similar to how many kids or students today think their parents will be unhappy, like if they don't get good grades or don't do well in school or in their other activities. People always seem to think that they're not going to be good enough and need to work harder at something that might not even be their interest or in their skill set, and they'll be working pointlessly towards a goal that they're not really set to achieve.
Or not happy with.
Yeah. Perfectionism.
Wow. I see what you did there.
One thing that I remembered right away once reading about how winter is about kite fighting. I remember reading an article in like August about how in India there was people who got killed because of kite fighting. So to understand how this works would be, first of all, to understand that the kite strings, the newer ones like in modern day, are like sometimes made out of nylon, and they're have glued shards of metal or glass on them to easily cut and stay strong during kite fights.
Oh, can I mention right now?
Yeah.
After searching it up, apparently some of the variations, not just glass shards, it's glass string. So that's what makes it sharp.
Oh,
It's glass
Wow.
string. Outright.
how's that work?
Here's an image.
Oh yeah, that's.
You can probably see it
that
too.
cuts right.
I was gonna get to that. So after when all the kids come back to school after winter break, they all have like scars and like gashes on their finger. This is like,
Signs.
but in this article I've come across, in India, 2 kids and another adult got killed during kite fighting because of a holiday that made it really popular. It's kind of just a cool connection to how this sport seems kind of harmless, but because like in the story after the tournament, it was like a life-changing experience, and kite fighting in real life can be really dangerous, and it was even banned in like certain cities in India because how dangerous the strings can be when the kites are falling down or just when they're actually flying it themselves.
I would agree with that, man.
Yeah.
After seeing images.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gross.
it's like the
It's
strings
pretty
like coming
brutal.
down
They
on
cut
you and
through your
like
fingers
cuts
while
right
you're trying to
through
fly
your
them.
It's glass. It's
Yeah.
glass string, so it's pretty much.
neck.
It's basically having glass fiber.
Cut through your
Cut
throat
through you.
or your fingers
not
when you're
fun
flying it.
there, not fun.
Brutal.
My final connection was about the gifts that Amir received from his birthday. He took all the presents when he received them, after everyone was gone, and just chucked them into a pile in his room in the corner because he didn't want any of them. He felt that all the gifts were just blood money from his father because he didn't do anything that his father really was proud of. And this kind of reminded me of like the times I've traveled to like visit my relatives in the Philippines, most of the time during Christmas, and I received a whole bunch of gifts from people that I didn't used to really know them that well, but now I know them better. But still, I didn't feel like I deserved the gifts. They were just kind of given to me just because we were family, but there was not really any importance or like feelings that these people cared for me and wanted to give me things. What was it?
You get gifts. You get gifts. You all get gifts.
It was just like how Amir just chucked it in his room. He's like, these trains are never going to be running around my room. I'm never going to play with this. Similar to how I receive stuff, and my mom would be like, are you going to use this? I'm like, probably not. So then we just give it away to someone else. Re-gift.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all my connections.
Okay.
Once again, secret references.
Yes.
Subtle references.
Story. Okay, I have some 5 passages picked out.
Passage master.
Kind of far away.
Master, should I read this?
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe say what
So-
chapter they're in.
The first one I picked, page 21, chapter 2.
Pages are different for every book.
Oh yeah.
it's okay.
Well, let's just say chapter 2. So, I don't know, this one's actually long, but I'm just going to describe it. Essentially, this is a section of the book where we first see the relationship between, what's his name?
Amir.
Amir and his father, because he describes how his father's marriage, and also like how his father doesn't really, like, he tried to get him interested in sports, tried to get him interested into soccer, and when it was obvious that he was neither interested in playing soccer or watching soccer, his father was quite disappointed. And even when another time he took him to these horse races, and he ended up crying after he saw a horse, sort of like.
It was like a
Oh,
spectator.
that was not a horse
That was
race.
not a horse race.
That's not a horse
He
race.
saw someone pretty much get killed.
Yeah.
Did he get killed?
No, he said
He got mangled pretty badly.
Yeah.
later on. I remember he said, "I'm glad." Actually, never mind. That was something else.
His dad was hoping that he'd be happy. And
Yeah,
he was
but
crying.
he
So
was.
Yeah.
it's
And
just
his dad
for,
was
it's
trying
just
to
for an
hide his anger.
explanation. It's just an event where there's a person on a horse. Well, people
There's
on a
teams,
horse.
teams,
There's
or
teams on
individuals.
horses, and there's just dead carcass.
Yeah.
Well, there's this carcass on the ground, and you basically pick it up, and you bring it somewhere to win. Then this person fell over and
And
got
got
trampled by the
others.
horses
Yeah.
and got mangled.
So, and then after all this, towards the end of the chapter, we've got the conversation between his father and Rahim Khan, where it's really just talking about how his father doesn't really, like, he feels like there's something wrong with Amir, and that he's not turning out like he should be, and like also highlights how he's a little bit cowardly and relies on Hassan more. And this is really just, I think, one of the conflicts in the novel that is important because it shapes a lot of Amir's later actions in the novel, and how it's actually probably one of the major reasons for like how he treats Hassan later on in like say like chapter 8, chapter 9, because he feels that Hassan's kind of like can sometimes steal attention from his father, and he feels like he wants to be his father's favorite, and Hassan is just, I think later on he has a feeling like I want Hassan to leave, and he does eventually leave. So okay, the second one is page 58, and that I believe is in chapter 6. So this section is, I think it's something that's repeated twice, and it's essentially where he asks Hassan, if I ask you to eat dirt, would you do it? And he also repeats this later on in another passage where he's like, if I were to hit you with this pomegranate, will you hit me back? And we know that Hassan, he says no. He says no, he wouldn't. And I think it is another special highlight for just the status quo between the two of them. How they're both how they're separated by like Stani and Shia, and like the servant and master relationship. The class.
Yeah.
And how he tells Hassan that he wouldn't do it, and Hassan takes his word for it. But Amir knows that he doesn't truly say this like with all his heart. Well, Amir does, not Hassan. Which is, it's just something that highlights their friendship, and maybe something that it's foreshadowing the breaking down of their friendship. Okay, the next passage is.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Next passage is in
Out of our control.
page 77, and this is chapter 7. So this is where Hassan is raped by Asif, and where Amir just watches. And of course, this is a very important scene. It's like the major sort of turning point in their friendship and how he treats Hassan, and leads to the eventual it's like the main conflict of the entire story. Like everything has led up to this point, and everything after this point in the novel everything's just based around this, because every action that Amir does that relates to Hassan is relating to this incident where he watches Hassan get raped. So it's just a very important part of the novel, and without it, it's a major part of the book that's very important. Then page 97 is my next one, and this is the pomegranate scene underneath the tree where Amir repeatedly hits Hassan with pomegranates and asks him to hit him back.
Wait, can I just say this?
Yeah.
Underneath the pomegranate tree, I hit you, but you didn't hit me. Okay. 1984.
He did.
1984.
He did take one and crush it on his own head, but he's like, that wasn't even close.
I hope Mrs. McCarthy likes that.
So
Underneath the pomegranate tree,
So
I hit
I
you,
guess-
but you didn't hit me.
in this scene, that Amir is just feeling like he wants Hassan to get mad at him. That's what we said earlier, that he wants him to hit him back. And we see that Hassan doesn't, and Amir just walks off in frustration. So, again, this is just like, through these chapters, 1 to 9, we see their relationship just deteriorating until Hassan and his father Ali just end up leaving. And just the kind of like the end of this childhood phase. The next.
Can I say something first?
Yeah.
I think Amir wanted him to fight back because when he would get angry at him, then it'd give him a chance to either like apologize or more like forget the experience because like they're both equal now.
Or just even being hit would make him feel better.
Yeah.
Just like having Hassan take it out on him.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better just to fight and then be over it with it instead of just
Keeping
keeping
it
it up.
Fight,
so
get
long.
it out. It's just like the same
Yeah.
logic with like cry, get it all out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get it out.
So the next last passage is on page 111. And this is in chapter 9, the last scene where Ali and Hassan leave. Again, it's a very
Sad.
important moment, quite emotional. Before this, Amir had actually put a watch and some money he'd received from his birthday underneath, I think, their mattress.
Hassan's mattress.
Yeah, Hassan's mattress. And essentially told his father about it, and his father asked Ali and Hassan whether they'd stolen it, and they said they did. Now, the surprising part about this is his father, Amir's father, forgives them, which is, I think, one of the highlights of the good parts of Amir's father that we don't generally see too much. We see a lot of bad things from Amir's perspective, but we also see that the bond between Amir's father and Ali is so strong that he's willing to forgive them for essentially stealing things from him. And I think it's just like one of the positive points that we don't really see throughout the novel very much.
Because his father, Baba, he said there's only one type of sin in the world, which is theft,
Yeah.
stealing your life, stealing your
Mhm.
wife, or stealing material things.
So everything in a way is, in a sense, stealing.
Yeah. And it shocked Amir that he forgave him because he stole money and a watch, or he claimed to have, but he still forgave him so easily.
Well, despite the forgiveness, Ali and Hassan still leave. And I think at this moment, I think Amir wasn't completely, like, he didn't really want to be aware that there might be a possibility that Hassan and Ali already know that he's not really, like, treating them well, or he's not treating Hassan well, but obviously at this point in the novel, we know he's not treating them well, and they know about it, essentially. And I think Ali probably made the decision that we have to leave because we can't have him continue to be treated like this. We can't have Hassan continue like this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also we see Amir's father just essentially become very emotional and ask him not to leave, but they won't give him a reason. And I think this is just another moment which adds on to Amir's guilt, that he caused Ali and Hassan to leave, not only causing them grief, but also causing his father grief. So it's just every decision he's making throughout this childhood is actually just giving him more guilt. And it's just...
Yeah, the kite
It's
runner
not-
tournament, which he did to please
not
his
so
father, ends up leading to his father being very unhappy because of Ali having to leave. It's all cause and effect.
It was
Yeah.
kind of the first time also to see his father emotional
Mm-hmm.
compared to the other parts when his father was like very masculine and just tough and
Yeah.
proving everyone wrong.
Yeah, he's described as like basically a big person in stature.
Yeah.
He's 6'5".
Yeah.
He's a big person in stature and just the presence that he gives off.
Yeah.
But then here we see that he's very emotional in a way. That he, while theory was the one thing that he considered like the root of all sin, right?
That
Theft is the root of all sin. He just forgives them without even a second thought.
And he is building an orphanage, so we do see that he has like a nice part to him, a compassionate part to him.
Yeah.
I think another part of why he does that is because of like the existing relationship that they had beforehand. So like coming from the same father and just going through all that time, I think it adds a lot more emotional value as to why Ali why Ali leaving would give him so much grief. And you kind of see in Amir, like he's just so much guilt stacked onto him where you kind of expect there to be a moment of redemption for him. Just as
it's so big, but yeah, just
Okay, so what happened was the camera overheated because apparently 360 cams tend to overheat.
too much data.
But we will continue the audio from now on. Sorry for no image, but
Yeah.
it takes a while to cool down.
So I guess just wrapping up my point, just kind of you're expecting Amir to have that moment where he's like, oh, I'm sorry, like I did this, or like please come back, like I'm sorry, just to have that moment of kind of reconciliation. But that never happens, and I think it's a good way to wrap up what we're doing and kind of like just like moving on to the next phase of the story where all that guilt is built up and just waiting on that moment where he can redeem himself in the story.
I remember when people were sleeping over at his house, during when everyone was asleep, he's like, I saw Hassan get raped, and he was hoping like half-heartedly that someone heard him so that he could finally get it over with, but no one heard him, so he's still filled with all the guilt.
I think it's also worth mentioning that the book explicitly says that he said to no one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just wants someone to know, someone to be with him, and someone to like talk to about it.
You see, he
wants
just
to say it.
because he's so cowardly, he doesn't share it with anybody. He doesn't confront anyone about it. He doesn't tell his father, and I think we will continue to see this like later on.
Yeah. It's interesting how when Hassan and Ali are leaving, Amir really believes that Hassan knows that Amir saw him get raped and that Hassan has told his father, but he believes that Hassan has convinced his father not to tell Baba because Hassan doesn't want that, and that's Hassan's last act of just being so devoted to Amir that he doesn't want that to get out. He's protecting Amir even now, which is crazy because even through the last little bit, Amir has been treating Hassan really rudely and poorly and doesn't do anything with him. Yeah. But still, Hassan has that devotion to him.
Like a regular person would not really accept this, or it might only be because of the servant status of the person.
Wait, remind me, was this just speculation or actually said out loud?
What
was?
That
he said like
that he told.
I think he said it out loud.
He said it out loud,
sure
but no one was awake.
Okay.
He was just too scared to say to someone, so he was just saying it while everyone was asleep and hoping that someone might have heard.
No, I mean the part where Hassan told
Ali.
Yeah, is that speculation?
I think he.
That's just speculation.
That's
I
not
think he did though.
This is just what Amir thinks.
What Amir thinks, but I think what Amir thinks is correct. I think that's how we're supposed to.
So once again, readers are kept
read
in the hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm interested to see going into the next section, how Amir handles it and what he does with his social life, because so far he's becoming more and more isolated. Usually on the first day of school, all the boys get together and they look at their fingers to see the scars from the kite fighting. But that year, after winter break, Amir doesn't do that at all. He just walks into class and he's becoming more and more isolated. So I think that's interesting to see how Amir is going to handle that and how it's going to go for Amir.
How's life transitions, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So
We're all good.
is that it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Done.
Pretty good cutoff point.
Good job.
Oh, done.
Shame about the camera.
Good job.